Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Let me ask you this. What kind of a black person rolls out the red carpet for a president backed by neo-Nazis, oligarchs, and US regime change architects? Because that's exactly what Cyril Ramaphosa is doing as he prepares to welcome Volodymyr Zelensky to South Africa on April 24th, 2025. Zelensky's rise to power, bankrolled by a convicted fraudster so corrupt that even Joe Biden's administration slapped him with sanctions. After being found guilty of massive financial crimes, he fled to Israel. And now we're supposed to believe Zelensky is some kind of global hero? Not today. We're not here to recycle critiques of Putin. That narrative's been milked dry. The real story began in 2014 with the so-called Orange Revolution, a US-backed coup that overthrew a democratically elected Ukrainian government. And from those ashes rose a new puppet regime. So today, we're exposing how both Zelensky and Ramaphosa, products of oligarch money and Western manipulation, serve the interests of the elite while pretending to represent the people. Ramaphosa was installed by South Africa's oligarchs, the Oppenheimers, Stephen Kosef, and the rest of white monopoly. Capital, United FC. Should we be surprised? This is the same president whose couches were stuffed with undeclared foreign currency at his Pala Pala farm. No, this isn't just a diplomatic visit. This is a calculated alignment between two compromised leaders, both backed by oligarchs, shady intelligence networks, and military regimes entangled with neo-Nazi ideologies. You're about to see just how deep this rabbit hole goes and why this visit should outrage every South African who still believes in justice. Let's get into it.
Militarily, it's already over. Russia has won.
Wait, hold up. Did she just say Russia has won? So why are we still pretending this war isn't a lost cause for Ukraine? You know who doesn't care about reality? Zelensky. He's too busy playing dress up as a wartime leader while his country burns. This isn't leadership, it's theater funded by Western taxpayers. Without the war, Zelensky's relevance evaporates faster than water in the Kalahari Desert.
But you can't win if the other side still says, no, you haven't won. We're going to still, I mean, they literally drag men off the streets and force them into Ukraine's army where they get a few weeks training and then they're sent off to be killed by Russian artillery.
Dragging men off the streets, giving them 2 weeks of training and sending them straight to die in trenches? That's not patriotism, that's human trafficking disguised as national service. How the heck is this democratic? Smells like a dictatorship to me. Who's calling the shots here? It's not Zelensky, it's Kaloyski, the very oligarch who installed him. The same crook is hiding in Israel after swindling billions from a bank he owned through fraudulent loans. Zelensky isn't defending democracy. He's presiding over a meat grinder. Tell me again why we're cheering for this clown show. And Cyril's inviting this guy to lecture Africa on freedom. Spare us the theater.
So Zelensky wants it to continue. He's out. If this war doesn't end, he's out. He's on a plane to, maybe he'll go to Israel with his parents. I don't know what he's going to do, but in order to stay in power, the war has to continue. So he doesn't want peace. And these European countries, they have, while they don't have military power, they can gum up the works, and they can prevent peace from even for a pause that Trump would go along with.
Zelensky needs war like a vulture needs corpses. No peace means no accountability, no elections, no questions about who really put him in power, a convicted fraudster hiding in Israel. But Ramaphosa is too busy hiding cash in couches to care.
So my fear is something unpredictable happening. I guess I'll put it that way, something that nobody's thinking about now. And I think actually as Russia it continues winning on the battlefield, I feel like things get more and more dangerous.
Yeah. I just want to comment before I move on to my last question on your point about him possibly ending up in Israel. Not everybody may know who's listening to our conversation that Zelensky was made famous by a Ukrainian oligarch, an Israeli Ukrainian oligarch by the name of Ihor Kaloyski, who has been charged with bank fraud by the United States government and apparently has sought refuge in Israel. And there were reports in the Ukrainian media during Zelensky's presidential campaign that he went to Israel something like 10, 15 times during the course of the campaign, I would imagine to take instructions from his oligarch, fraudulent backer, Kaloyski.
Kolomoisky, oligarch and Zelensky's puppet master, a convicted fraudster living large in Israel, while his puppet wages war back home. And yet, somehow the media sells us this fairy tale about Zelensky being the face of democracy. Democracy? Really? This isn't a conspiracy, it's a fact. Zelensky flew to Israel 15 times to kiss the ring of a US-sanctioned crook. But Ramaphosa? He'll shake Zelensky's hand while South Africans starve. Does Cyril think hosting this guy makes him look good? Please.
But I think it's an entirely reasonable scenario that that's where he'll end up. But then again, he may end up with, in Miami with Yair Netanyahu, if he's lucky. So,
well, Kolomoisky is a crook. Ukraine's such a strange country where a lot of the population they're straight up Nazis and white supremacists.
Did she just say straight up Nazis? Yeah, she did. And she's right.
But it's run by a lot of Jewish oligarchs.
Yes, Jewish oligarchs like Ihor Kolomoisky fund far-right groups in Ukraine.
Including this guy Kolomoisky, who is such a crook. He tried to carry out some swindle in the U.S., and it was so egregious, the U.S. sanctioned him. But yes, he's the one who put Zelensky in office. But the sooner we're rid of Ukraine and for the sake of the Ukrainian people, even the ones who give Nazi salutes and do you remember when it first started? They had to airbrush all these Nazi insignias off their uniforms because every photo of a Ukrainian soldier had some connection with Nazism.
Airbrushing Nazi symbols off uniforms. Can you imagine? Not removing the ideology, mind you, just photoshopping the evidence away. That's Ukraine in a nutshell. Whitewashing fascism for international approval. Yet Cyril Ramaphosa will stand next to Zelensky like it's normal, like it's okay.
But,
And they haven't been able to airbrush the fact that they have a national holiday in Ukraine to this very day for Stepan Bandera. No one likes.
Yes, they do. The Nazi collaborator. Yes, they do.
While Zelensky poses for selfies with Western leaders, his own country celebrates Stepan Bandera, a literal Nazi collaborator, with national holidays. That's not revisionist history, that's fact. So tell me, Cyril Ramaphosa, a black man leading a nation born out of anti-colonial struggle, is cozying up to a regime that glorifies racial terror. How does that sit with you? If they hate their own Slavic brothers enough to honor Nazi collaborators, what do you think they think of Africans?
At any rate, we could go on with Ukraine and how terrible it is.
So I'll leave you with this. Why is Cyril Ramaphosa rolling out the red carpet for Volodymyr Zelensky? A man backed by oligarchs, tied to far-right militias, and complicit in the suffering of his people while ignoring these glaring contradictions. South Africa constantly positions itself as a global champion of human rights and justice. It even filed a genocide case against Israel at the ICJ recently. Yet it's now preparing to host a Ukrainian president whose country bans opposition parties, jails journalists, censors the media, drafts civilians off the streets to die in a US proxy war, hasn't held free elections, and glorifies a Nazi collaborator with a national holiday, Stepan Bandera, who slaughtered Jews and Poles. Just imagine If South Africa had a public holiday for an apartheid butcher, whether it was P.W. Botha, Verwoerd, or Forster, there'd be riots. But when Ukraine does it, silence. This isn't just hypocrisy, it's betrayal. Can South Africa truly claim to stand for justice while aligning itself with a regime that embodies everything we claim to oppose? Is this what the ANC has become? Freedom fighters in name, but sellouts in practice? Aligning with neo-Nazi sympathizers for strategic clout? Let me say it plainly. If Ukrainians hate their fellow Slavic, Russian brothers and sisters this deeply, just imagine how they feel about African people. How do you think they view Black Africans? And now this clown, an actor masquerading as a president, is being welcomed by Cyril?